This is how it is today on Pop Culture Minefield.
Pop Culture Minefield presents Dangerous Military Nerds.
Today,
Dangerous Military Nerds. They're just like regular nerds, only dangerous. And now, your host, Gary Cassell.
this is how it is today on Pop Culture Minefield.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
Yay! That's a fun new intro theme. So hope everybody enjoyed that. It's another episode of Dangerous Military Nerds. We don't do them all the time because I always wait till we have interesting guests to do them. We do them on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock when we have a guest. And the last guest we had that was awesome was my good buddy Mike Cascarillo, who just had a massively amazing story about his injuries received in combat, and of course he is the host over at WTF Radio. He is the CQ at that radio station, and a very close friend of mine. I'm hoping that he's going to be able to schedule and have our guest that we're having tonight on. And without any further ado, we're going to start talking about. Which one should I talk about first? I'll talk about Julia because that's what I do. Julia is my boss. She's also one of my dearest friends. I don't know, she's like my sister. And I have sisters and I don't like them, but I love the shit out of Julia. Julia, of course, is married to the always amazing Dale Dye. She stole that man's heart, and she stole my heart when she and I first met in 2006. And I met her and John Del Vecchio at the same time back in 06. And we've been long-lasting friends. And of course, I began doing artwork for him in 06. So we're almost at 17 years of doing artwork or 17 going on 18 years doing artwork for Warriors Incorporated. So I'm very proud to introduce Julia Dye. Here's Julia. That's Julia. There she is.
Hello.
And Martin is hiding behind the stage, so I'm going to bring him back out again. Or maybe not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Outstanding. So I had a window open in the background, drive me crazy. So this is Dangerous Military Nerds, and you've been on before. Don Ecker was on with me the last time because he was really wanting to meet you. And he's a grizzled old, grouchy old man. Normal words in his vocabulary are sons of bitches. And
I live and work with Marines. That's just poetry.
And that's Don Ecker. And of course, our other guest is another close friend of mine. We were business partners. We started a company called Charlie Foxtrot Entertainment. I thought it was a funny name because anybody from Hollywood say it would have no clue that they just said clusterfuck, and I thought that was hilarious. And that's, of course, New York Times best-selling author and my friend, John Del Vecchio. We'll move him up here to my place so I can sit down here comfortably.
Good to be here.
It's always good to see both of you. My God, you guys have been sneakily working on something, and surprisingly, I didn't do the artwork for it. And I was like, why didn't you guys call me? Oh, you've got so many books under your belt, and I'm going to throw these up here because I'm very proud of them because I created art for so many of them. Number one, 13th Valley. And I love that painting. I was so excited when the audio book contacted and had that cover added to it. And I was like, yay, I'm on the audio book too. Of course, the Brimmer detail you did with Frank Gallagher. And he's an interesting person to become friends with on Facebook, let me tell you.
Yes, he is.
His posts are very interesting. And every day I get up to see if he's been banned yet.
Again.
And yet he's still there. I still see him.
I got banned today, so there you go.
What?
I got banned today, so Frank Gallagher's still there.
You're very PC. How the heck did you get banned?
That's a story for another time. We'll talk later. Finish your intro.
So this is the other book I did the new cover art for. Then this one for the sake of all living things, which really that's just a touched up photo. The artwork is on the bottom banner. That's original artwork. This cover painting I did for Carry Me Home, the new edition. And then this one, I didn't do the artwork for, but this is your new book. August 2024 by John M. Del Vecchio. Oh, Tim is watching us right now, FKHC2. Gap After Dark, welcome. We have a good group in the chat. Other people are watching us. We have a big audience. It'll grow on Twitter and Rumble, and they'll just slowly trickle in. But what I love about our channel is we're getting what you would call residual views, where by Monday, there's a few thousand views of our videos, and that's showing that YouTube can't beat us anymore. We outsmarted them by using Google Ad, Julia.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
you use Google Ad, and what are they going to do? It's their freaking service. Pay a couple of bucks, and all of a sudden, I broke their algorithm. So we started getting more subscribership, and we're getting more and more viewership. And I like that.
Nice.
And I want people to be exposed to what you guys are doing because, look, I am a part of Warriors Inc. I'm a part of Warriors Publishing. I am the official artist of both companies.
Yep.
You are right there at the top of the company. You and Dale Dye, and of course John Del Vecchio is like just a prolific author. I can make this joke because we're friends. Also, one of the single longest-winded people I've ever met in my life.
I was joking with our publicist, Libby Jordan, who is magnificent, and she was saying, how on earth did John Del Vecchio write a novella? And I said, well, my reply to her was, he was trying to write a blog post.
Because this is, look, he is into the minutia of details. That's the thing about Del Vecchio.
That's what makes him so awesome. It's so great.
It is.
It's so detailed.
Because he'll come up with this finite, infinite amount of information that just he's pouring out at you. And but I did the other part of that joke was I said it takes John Del Vecchio 2 hours to explain what he saw in 60 minutes. And
but you're going to end up with a way better understanding of what you saw in 60 minutes. So it's a brilliant thing. It's not a criticism in any way.
Yeah, he'll get into the details of what the guy actually meant, and he'll go off on this. You'll think it's a diatribe or something, but no, it's important because to understand this one point, you have to understand this whole goblet full of information, and he'll pour it into you. And I love you for that.
In a way that you will be entertained and you will appreciate. It's not like a boring lecture. That's what's so great about it. Yeah.
There's nothing boring about John. But John, what is going on with this crazy mountain man beard?
These are my winter whiskers.
Winter whiskers.
Winter whiskers. And, somehow they just kind of carry it over.
The wife liked them.
That's absolutely true.
There you go. That's why they're still there. The wife doesn't like them; they go away. So let's get into this book because the book actually takes place in the future, and it's was it 20 years in the future?
Well, it's 24 years in the future that she's writing about it, but she's writing about what is now just a few months in the future. And so, it's kind of a warning of what's going on. I mean, there's so much crap going on in the world right now. And, this is a short book, right? I mean, we're talking truly a novella. So, all those.
It's under 200 pages, right?
Well, actually, I think it's only about 55.
Novella? What is the novella length?
Julia, you explained that to me because I never knew it until Julia told me. But I think you said it's between 15,000 and 40,000 words.
So it's a word count.
Okay. It's a word count. Yeah. Yeah.
All
And so this is pretty short. And it's really meant to catch people and through entertainment, because there's a lot of people that do not read, you know, they're not into the news. They don't want to, deal with a lot of things that are actually happening, but they're certainly willing to watch, disaster films on TV or whatever it might be, if it's entertaining. So what we're trying to do here is make it very entertaining and at the same time make it very real, realistically based on what the potential future is. And a lot of this is a very short-term potential future, and whether this kind of stuff happens in the next three months, or maybe it happens in the next couple of years. But all these things are about to happen. I mean, put it very simply, we are on we're right on the precipice of absolute disaster in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say that all the time, that we
Mhm.
are really skirting disaster right now. And people don't understand just how close we are to the precipice of going over that ledge and losing our country the way we've known and loved it.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to just back up to the very beginning before the story starts. And it's just kind of a little, it's a Latin phrase instead of a dedication. And it says tribulatio dita or dita. And I'm not exactly sure that I don't speak Latin, so forgive my pronunciation. But essentially, what it means is through trials and tribulations, we grow stronger. Right? It is the first words on, or it is the words on the very first American currency, 1775, before the Declaration of Independence, a $2 bill. And, so what we're looking at right now, those of us, and I think it's, probably a majority of Americans really are working hard, and we're trying to solve these problems, right? And that does make us stronger and it unifies us. But that doesn't mean the obstacles in front of us are not terrifying. I mean, what is potentially going to happen and what may be happening next week is absolutely terrifying. And it's from economics to immigration to what's happening in Europe, the debt bubble worldwide. I don't know if you saw in the last 2 days, NATO member Turkey, and this is the first NATO member to do this, has just joined BRICS to displace the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency.
Yeah.
That was 2 days ago. Yesterday, Saudi Arabia said, you know what? This agreement that we have with the U.S. About the petrodollar to make it the world reserve currency, well, it comes up for renewal, and we're not renewing it. So right now, the dollar is collapsing. We're going to be looking at just probably hyperinflation. I mean, we're looking at inflation that's, forget the government figures. Inflation is way out of control.
Well, we used to joke about
this.
This is
one little element of all of this. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying that we used to joke about this all the time, that Democrats are like a person who believes that they're not broke as long as they've got a checkbook. And it used to be funny. It's not funny anymore.
Well, the problem is that their checkbook is filled with deposits from taxpayers.
Yeah. They think they have money, and it's not their money, it's our money they're spending and abusing. But I have a question for Julia now. Julia, what was the deciding factor for you wanting to publish this novella?
I think it's the timely nature of it. It's certainly right around the corner, and it's important that people begin waking up and paying attention. I do think it's a line that John has said to me that I think is super important. It is sometimes easier to reach people through fiction than with facts, which is why all of us, everybody here in this room, are storytellers in one way or another, and in whatever we do. Why Warriors Inc. has looked at popular culture as a means for communicating with people and telling stories and working towards our mission. I think I have a personal love for this type of story. One of my books I've always loved is War Day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but if you haven't read it, read it. I think that there's a way that you can walk in someone else's footsteps for 30 or 40 pages and come out the
It's
other
one of the
end.
greatest ways of doing that is through
Correct.
literature. It really is.
And
Not
so
movies.
I wanted to be a part of that, and it's a way of getting John's excellent storytelling out there to reach people and hopefully bring them back to another place where we can start talking, because that's what we got to do. We're not talking.
It's true. Just a
It's
real
true.
quick thing here.
Yeah, John.
There's the audio version of the book, and Julia narrates it. All right, so
Oh
yes,
because Martin was grabbing a link for that earlier. And I do want to point out, guys, the link for John's book at Warriors Inc. is at the top of the chat. So all you got to do is open that little pop-up window at the top of our chat. It's always up there. Click on it, and you can go straight to Warriors Inc. and look at the book, and you can get a copy of the novella or the audio book.
Yeah, it's warriorspublishing.com is the website. It's Warriors Publishing, not the Warriors Inc. site.
Yeah. It's the link that was in the letter that goes with the description of the book. I made sure to put it out there so they can actually go straight to that thing. Now, I want to point out, John is a celebrated New York Times bestselling author with the 13th Valley. He is a former. Now, what's funny is you graduated college before going in to the military, getting drafted. Yes. And you ended up with the 101st Airborne as a combat correspondent, which is exactly what Dale Dye was. But he was with the Marine Corps. And and you got embedded and, saw your fair share because you ended up getting the Bronze Star with a V for Valor, right?
Yes.
Yep. So, definitely that just humbles the shit out of me. But you know what? I still love you and you're still my friend. So when I'm not feeling good physically, I end up usually calling John Del Vecchio because he knows all the home remedies. Well, what you need to do is go get this and take that in combination of this. That's $400. I will buy it for you and send it to you. I love you, John. You're such a great guy. But okay, so what you're trying to do, and by the way, I know that people on the other side of the aisle will be yelling, "Oh, see, you're just another writer or activist." I said, there's a difference to that. He actually knows how to write a story and he understands how to use a theme. He understands character and story arcs. He understands when to use a plot because it is a device. People think it's part of the storytelling process. No, that's J.J. Abrams. Real writers only use plot when it's necessary because you can have a story without a plot, but you can't have a plot without a story. It's a simple rule. And so you've got a guy that's doing that because some of the best writers in history on either side of the aisle were able to give you their general idea about things, but entertain you so much that you might even not even notice what was just said to you. And are you going that far? Or because I feel from what I've read so far that you are directly laying it out as a writer. What you're thinking about politically. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I'm projecting, from what I see going on right now, I'm projecting what can happen. Right. So as you first said, this is something that's going on in the future. but it's a short-term future. As
where
far
we're not doing science fiction, right?
right, and so uh, all the things that these different incidents are based on, and particularly the early ones. These are happening. I mean, these come from the congressional record, things like that. So all of this stuff is happening right now, and if you project the ramifications of what's going on right now and the decisions being made right now, this is what you end up with, and this is where we're going. So that's how that's the way the story is built.
Well, yeah, using reality, what people are seeing every day. This is a stimuli they're used to, and you're taking it and basically mushing it into a ball and telling a story with that information, and in a way that it's sort of like, okay, dream analysis, because a lot of people think that dreams are just crazy, but the fact is that they're telling you things about your life and things going on. The stimuli you had for the last week is all being explained to you by your subconscious. What you are is you're basically being the subconscious here and trying to break all of this information down in a story structure so people can see it and better understand it.
And anytime you're doing a story, you want all the elements of story in there. You want the suspense. You want you want the reader to say, geez, what's going to happen next, or that type of thing. And you do all the characterization and everything else. And as I think you indicated this, you're embedding it. Some of the other things to do, or at least that I do, the very beginning of the story is taking the words from A Tale of Two Cities, the opening of A Tale of Two Cities, but it's cutting it, right? And so
you're talking about it's the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Yeah. Right. So here instead it says it was the worst of times, period. Right. It was the winter of our discontent, period. Right. And that's the beginning. So that's what's and the main character is this now when she's telling it, when she's writing this story, she's 38 years old, but when she's going through it, she was 14. Right. So she's telling the story in 2048 of what's happening to her at 14 years old in 2024, right? And so she's going through all these things, and you want it to be really entertaining. You want people to go, oh, and or I didn't see that coming, and all the things that you want to do in fiction. All the things you want to do in storytelling to bring the person forward and to really engage them and engage their minds.
And your overall goal is to entertain again, but educate as well.
Yes. So, and this time it's entertain and maybe issue a warning.
I want to just jump in for a sec with the word entertain, because this is a dark tale. It's not entertain like The Wizard of Oz. It's entertain like Earth Abides. It's close to War Day, like I mentioned. It's think about World War Z or what else? On the beach kind of idea of looking
on the beach.
But it's looking at potential 1 second later, near-term speculative fiction that entertains in that it captures your imagination and causes you to think and get enraptured with characters and situations, but not necessarily entertained like Dancing Girls, right?
So, I don't mean that kind of entertainment.
Right,
I mean,
I just want to clarify that.
I like my dark entertainment, scary shit.
Me too.
The more realistic, the better. And that way I walk home and sit down after we're seeing the film and just like, it's like just unwinding after like going to see a movie that just blows your mind, or reading a book. Because I've read quite a few books that went dark for me. I remember putting the book down going, I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. I think that I am stuck awake all fucking night. Thank you, author's name. And so, and this, do you see this being the beginning of something like a continuation of this story?
One of the things we talked about, and in this story, one of the characters, the grandfather, so you have the young kids, the parents, and then the grandfather and grandmother. But the grandfather has left them both a guide. It's a notebook that's a guide, and it's also a reflection on some of the things that he thinks. And there's just little inserts of that in there. There has been the thought that, we might continue Grandpa's, and in the book he's GPA. We might continue GPA's notes that were not included in the story.
Yeah, I'd love to see GPA's journal as a standalone.
Yeah, because it sounds like you've got the basis here to have create a world building based on our real world, but maybe because it is fictional, you can expand upon it. I just got that feeling that this is something you could really sink your teeth into. But hey, you know what? I've been neglecting our chat, and we've got at least 4 starred comments. One from Shinatsky about my working for you for 17 years. And he says 17 miserable years for Julia.
You don't know the half of it. No, it's brilliant.
And I do want to put this one up because this is important. An hour and a half before we did this show, I got a phone call from my good friend Patrick, and that our dear friend Mike Alonso, also known as Clobber in Times, Clobbery to me. That's what my nickname Jagari comes from Clobby. He gave it to me, and I called him Clobbery. He passed away, and it was sudden, unexpected. He fell, hit his head, had a heart attack, and went into a coma, and never recovered. And he was just a big part of our community, a close friend to Keith and I. And it's just we've lost 3 friends in the last year that just blindsided us. Sudden, people who should still be alive, but for some reason gone. And it's pretty devastating. And if it weren't for you and Julia, I probably wouldn't have done the show today, John, because I was so bummed out by it. But I'm like, no, I want to hang out with you two because talking to you two is going to take my mind off of it. And so God rest our dear friend Clobby, a good man, a good conservative, and really outspoken proponent for comic books and graphic novels, because that's what he did. His profession. Nobody knew comic book industry and all the history of comics like Clobby. Just a great guy. Penny is here. She has joined us. She just got out of church. She wanted to say hello to John Del Vecchio and
hello,
to
Penny.
Julia Dye. Penny is just one of the most dedicated members of our chat, and we love her. Gap After Dark is here. Who else has dropped in, man? Who all is here, Martin? Let me go look and see. Penny. We got so many notes here. Tim is here. Gap After Dark. Sidewall of Dragons. These names are ridiculous. Read by Nature. Shinatsky, who is a good friend of mine, close friend of mine. We work together. And that's it for the chat. But we still have a growing audience right now. And like I said, we tend to get some really good numbers over on Twitter. So we want to give our love to everybody over on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching the show today. We want to thank everybody over on Rumble for watching. We're trying to grow our community over there. And YouTube, of course, you guys are awesome. We don't like YouTube, but we love our chat on YouTube. YouTube is, I'm sorry, fuck off YouTube. And they're so mad at me right now for some of the things I say, and I don't care. I don't care. So they can't hurt me anymore. Worst thing to do is cancel our show, and then we'd just be on Rumble, and it would not be hurting us at all. Our crowd, our audience would still be watching us, so I'm not worried about it. So again, we are at the 30-minute mark into the show, and we have talked about this book. I'm afraid to ask too many questions because you want people to go get the book. But I was really blown away. How many pages is that for a novella, Julia? Not just words, but how many pages typically is that for a novella?
I would say it depends on, well, see, the reason that you do word count instead of pages, because it depends on how big your fonts are and how big your margins are. And so it can be probably between 40 and 70. A good.
Yeah, see, I had thought it was under 200. So it's.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. I mean, that's probably a fairly good guesstimate. Once you're above 175 in a book form, you're in novel land.
Yeah, it's like Campbell's book "Who Goes There" is I've always considered a good example of it's not a short story; it's a novella, and it's one of my favorite novellas of all time. With talking about with science fiction, the fears of the growing communist threat, and I love that stuff, man. So, and we've got it right now. It's come back, man. We thought we kicked its ass. No, they infiltrated. And I warned people back in the 80s that once we had shown the light of day on them in the 50s with HUAC, that they were going to go more subversive and they were going to go after the next generation, which technically was my generation. But thank God we had older people still teaching us. It wasn't until after the 80s that they started getting their hooks into the school system and using, socialist, soft communist, socialist ideology to give the kids. My daughter was exposed to that shit, and it pissed me off. It's why we started homeschooling her last 2 years of school, because just it's ridiculous. The school system is absolutely populated by these leftists, and they have helped bring about this problem as to why you wrote this book, which is to create something that's entertaining, because a lot of these soft-headed, I hate saying this, but they're soft-headed idiots, get their news from Comedy Central with Jon Stewart and people like that. That's where they get their news. And it's like, they'll be talking to me. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're quoting opinion. You're not telling me news. You're quoting opinion. And oh my God, I don't want to even get too far into this, but they have, and we have allowed, we sat and let this happen. The GOP, who I blame for a lot of this, they are at fault for this shit. They have worried so much about how they look that they have constantly turned a blind eye to the shit that was happening. And just even recently, I don't want to get too much into it, but this recent situation absolutely should not have happened, yet it's happening to one of our presidents. Unheard of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's,
and it is pure politics, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
Jon Stewart's children have been a disaster. I don't know what that means. Does he have kids?
No, I think it's the people who've learned their news through him, I think is what they mean.
Oh, that, yes. Read by Nature, yes, Twilight Zone is a good example. I imagine quite a few of the classic Twilight Zone episodes dealt with that. I fully expect Peele's Twilight Zone is just, his show's canceled. He's a garbage writer, and he's definitely a Hollywood socialist. And that's why Twilight Zone failed. Nobody wanted to watch that garbage. Now you go back to classic Twilight Zone, and you're seeing something of what John's talking about, where they put a seed, a kernel of truth about something in it, but write it in such a way to where you're entertained by it, but at the same time you're going, oh yeah, I see what you did there. We would call that parables, stories with meaning. And so this, would you put this novella in the position of being a modern parable? Or is that too far?
I personally, I think of parables as much shorter stories. But maybe I'm wrong on that.
And I think that they have a sort of a tidier wrap up of a moral at the end kind of
Yeah.
fable. I would say it's speculative fiction. That's how I would define it.
Just simply calling it that, right?
More
And by
than
the way, John, I guarantee you a parable would be longer if you wrote it.
Well, yeah, considering the other books are 200 and 300, 1,000 words.
Yeah, it's when my dad had the original printing, which you signed for him, by the way, and I thank you for that, the 13th Valley, because I remember sending that to you to sign it for him. He hit me with that thing, and I'm like, God damn, that book is heavy.
Yeah,
I felt every page.
I guess a few of them were pretty thick.
But it's because a buddy of mine referred to it as a roadmap to understanding the Vietnam War, is what he called it. And he died. He was a veteran buddy of mine.
They still, the media still, the mainstream media still is tied to these old narratives that have been shown to be false over and over and over again.
Oh, and proven to be a lie.
Proven to be a lie, and this, the idea of how story works in culture and within individuals, and this repetition of these lies, we've heard it from Joseph Stalin and etc. Tell that lie over and over again until it becomes the truth. They haven't let go of this lie. This is actually one of potentially GPA's notes. The false news and the false narratives from the Vietnam War really start with the way television treated it, and we can go. I'm kind of getting away from this book, but going back to the others, the projections on TV from the three major networks during the Vietnam War really are the basis for this whole idea that Vietnam veterans were baby killers. And there's a relatively new book out called, I believe it's Kill Anything That Moves. I mean, it's just BS, and it just doesn't go away. So, yeah.
And one of the greatest offenders of this, and actually, your husband, Dale, was the one who actually told me about this, is that Walter Cronkite, with his report from Hue City, was absolutely fictionalized, because by the time they got it back to the studio, they had to add the sound effects of warfare because the conflict had ended. They were done. They'd already cleaned up the city. And so when they put that, they broadcast it with the sound of gunfire in the background, which wasn't happening. It was an absolute lie. They presented it as an unwinnable war. Well, the fact is, we all know that studied history, that we defeated the Viet Cong during the Tet Offensive, crushed them, destroyed them. They were knocked down to almost nothing. NVA didn't even want to bother with them anymore at that point. From that point forward, from 68 on, we were fighting the NVA. And we completely decimated when Nixon finally bombed Hanoi. And they took the fight into Cambodia. And it absolutely decimated them to the point where we forced them to meet us in Paris and sign a fucking treaty. Because we had finally beat them.
But the people that we had who signed the treaty, who, for the United States, who did the negotiations, they were more interested in making sure that they got a treaty instead of doing a document that would end the war honorably.
End the conflict, exactly.
And, I mean,
it became all politics after that, because then our Congress defunded the war, basically ostensibly forcing us to surrender Vietnam. We had to flee Vietnam, And everybody remembers that. I remembered even as a kid watching those images of pulling out and how ugly that was.
Well,
it's more even more disgusting than that Cronkite situation. If you want to be grossed out, look at more morally safer in Vietnam.
Oh yeah,
that is
egregious, dishonest reporting. And this has been a problem I've had for a long time, that I understand and respect the combat correspondent. We should not be embedding civilian correspondents into these situations. We should force them to sit on the sidelines and never let them in, because this is where the breakdown.
I'd even go back to the beginning. How about we just have some journalists in this world?
Oh yeah,
it's just let's just have
right now
somewhere, and we can just start there, and then we can figure out how we want to use them.
2 years ago, I said on this show, journalism is dead. As we knew it, journalism is dead. Right now, it's pure activism. Everybody's an activist. They're not a journalist. They're an activist.
They're just propagandists.
They're very owned, and most of the media outlets are owned. If you go back to, I think it was 2012, George Soros at that time ran a huge meeting at Bretton Woods in New Hampshire on how to unseat the U.S. dollar. And this was very well, as the world reserve currency, that was very well publicized. So people knew about that.
Well, he'd already done it overseas twice.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, at the same time he was doing that, he ran another meeting in Boston, and this one got no press, but this one was about how to take over the press. And what has happened since then, that was like the marching orders and the entire strategic plan on how to take over.
Do you have a report on that? Because I would like to read that.
I probably do. It's probably in my notes someplace. Yeah.
Oh, I guarantee you've got notes on it somewhere. Again, yes, I know you, John.
I'm afraid I've got boxes and boxes of notes. It'd probably take me a couple of weeks to dig that one out. But no, what's happening now with the press was very, very definitely laid out by Soros and his group at that time, and they have implemented it, continuously. Or maybe I should say gradually, but continuously over the years until we get to this point where the press is essentially owned by these influencers, most of them from the left. And it's
not to mention they also work on scripts. We've seen that where they show you one news agency around the country, all these different news saying the same thing over and over again. Central thought.
It's now actually it's Alex Soros now instead of George Soros. And
he's dangerous too.
Yes. Well, and he's probably worse than his father was. But I don't know if you saw that as soon as Trump was convicted, he put out the words that all the media should be using on all their stories, and it was convicted felon. Right. So anytime you see that, you know that they have, to use that same word, it's that same type of thing repeated over and over and over again until that's what everybody believes and hears. I think unfortunately for them right now, a lot of this stuff is backfiring because people have caught on to it. And we have the resistance out there. There is the resistance. Problem is, it's coming together maybe a little too late, might be too little, too late. But in 24 years from now, it's still going to be there. That's just a little clue.
Yeah. I want to go back to the chat. We got some comments here. I had to stop watching the film 10 Things I Hate About You because I didn't realize it was about Gary. I'm telling you, they love hating me. Read by Nature says, I imagine quite a few of the classic Z. Oh, yeah, we went over that one already, so get rid of that Let's see. Admittedly, I used to buy into the comedian, quote, talking truth to power, end quote. I love political comedy like The Daily Show. Have I got news for you? Completely disillusioned on comedians now, sadly. No, because they're all spouting from the same pool, and it's
And they've
just,
stopped being funny.
yeah,
Yes.
now they're just mean and nasty. So let's see, all the political comedians that spawned from his run on The Daily Show. I don't know what that was for, Shanatsky, but the GOP is Jerry Seinfeld. The GOP is the party of doing nothing. It's true. That's why I'm a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I'll never be a Republican. The power structure realized that hijacking comedy was a good way to secure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
the majority of those people listening to that are young people. And they want comedy that is structured just for them. Let's see. And there you go. There's the other person that was a problem with that, Freedy Kissinger.
Well, I got to agree with that completely.
Yep. I tell people all the time, don't like gas prices? Thank Henry Kissinger. He's the one who set up OPEC and the, what do they call them? Price speculators for oil. What are they? He's the one who set them up. We'll never know who they are. And they never make their decisions off of things you think they're making it off of. And Kissinger gave them all the strength. Thank Kissinger. Hollywood Party is great book on the infiltration of Hollywood by Stalin. Absolutely. Fascists and commies. Hollywood just loves those guys. I don't get it. The crazier fact I found out was that Woodward was a CIA asset. Of course, he's talking about the guy from Washington
Right.
Post. Watergate was a manufactured narrative to destroy Nixon, and it worked. Yeah. Every single person involved with that break-in was with the CIA. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. I wonder why. Let's see. Yeah, Kissinger absolutely got his nose in there.
Yeah, it wasn't so much sabotaging; it is that he gave everything away in order to get the agreement. Which was a horrible agreement.
It's like you should never. Actually, my dad said this. He says, "Never go grocery shopping when you're hungry."
Yeah.
No, of course not.
It's kind of the same thing. Media is too corrupt. They sweep all the transgressions under the carpet because who would report on them, even before today's political climate? No, that's true too. Last comment by Read by Nature. It's only when a scandal becomes too big they'll start talking openly. Well, they also do this thing. It's called Wag the Dog, where it's like
They find Warriors Inc. production.
You've got this whole incident with Biden's kid. It was getting ready to hit the paper where he's going to get charged. And what happens then? That sub implodes. And they were apparently instructed not to tell anybody that they knew they were already dead on day one. They heard them die. They heard the implosion. And they held that for a fucking week to wag the dog, to get the story off of Biden. It's just the infiltration of our media. Don't trust the media. Oh my God, I sound like a 1950s horror movie. Watch the skies.
Well, you might do that too.
So
you don't know what chemicals are dumping up there.
No. Julia, this is new for Warriors Publishing. Okay, doing a novella.
Yeah, we haven't done much.
Is there an interest on your part in doing those more?
I think so. I think there's an interest in looking at different ways of combining the various formats and media that's available now. I think there's a place for short fiction or shorter fiction. I think there's a place. Audiobooks are really kicking off a lot, and this length of project works really well for audiobooks. And a lot of people are wanting to listen more than they are wanting to read. So it is a way of being more flexible. Our goal is to reach readers where they are. So if this is where the readers are, this is where we're going to go.
Right. And you got to
Good.
follow them. You got to follow the trends.
And once they're
absolutely.
reading it, then maybe they'll come back and read a larger book, and maybe they'll want to see something else, and maybe they'll investigate more and then want to become more educated on a topic. But we've got to start to introduce them to ideas and bring them into the fold, and get them excited. So, and if this is where they stay, this is where they stay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying they have to be changed in any way, but we want to reach people. So where are the people?
Absolutely. And my only request is, please don't fire me ever.
Oh, I'm not going to fire you. It's novella. We just one time. We were in a hurry. It had to be before August. You aren't fired. How many covers are you working on now? 4?
I'm already done with most of them. I only have one right now. The duty.
You got Rampage and Duty, right?
I've finished Rampage. I sent that to you. You didn't get it?
Well, okay, we'll talk after. You're not done because the book's not out, so there will be tweaks.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
The basics.
But then once it's out, I'm done. No.
It's like, dude. Plus, you have
Shinaski.
the art doesn't mean you have done all of the various formats. We got to talk.
Right. So Shinaski wants you to hire him so he can fire me.
Nice.
Shinaski is a really good friend of mine, so we fuck with each other like this.
Sweet.
But what is this one? Wait, I missed one. I've been video of B Jr. weighing crack rocks, pictures of him with Biden. All of that stuff. There are so many things he's guilty of. And what do? They go after something that can be pushed with a Second Amendment. It's like, oh man, you guys set this up to fail.
Of course.
Well, and all of those things, the drug charge, all of that stuff, it's to keep them from going after the treason.
Yeah, the real crimes.
The big
high
stuff.
Crimes.
The high crimes that follow back to the entire family.
Yeah. Let me get this right. You served in office, and while you were serving this country, you were in bed with China. And Ukraine. Let me get this straight. Yeah.
Yep.
And now you're funneling money to both. There are definitely high crimes here.
No, but I signed this piece of paper, and I love the whole trial where it's all about him signing this form when he was on drugs. And we're looking at a laptop full of him doing drugs and throwing away. I mean, like, what? Nobody's going to go after him for the clear violation of every other law that he broke and everything that's on the laptop. And why did he buy it? Nobody asked him why he wanted a gun. Maybe that might have been an interesting question. What was he going to do with it? Anyway, none of it makes sense.
So I don't know, man. I just don't understand. And this is the problem. And, it's always dangerous to talk about this stuff, but the DOJ and the FBI have been absolutely infiltrated. They've been infiltrated since at least the 90s under the Clinton administration. Planting people in a position in order to take it over. And both are now weapons of the left. They're weaponized law enforcement. That doesn't sound like something that happened in the 30s at all. Yeah, Julia got my joke. Because you're not supposed to use certain words, and I'm avoiding using that word. Seriously, I can say fuck, shit, damn, all I want, but if I use that N word with the A following it and a Z and then an I, or use the HITLE word, they will punish this channel.
Of course.
Seriously.
No, I know.
I just, man, we are the last bastion of freedom right now.
It might be offensive if you fly an American flag, but you better not drive your car over a rainbow painted on the street.
It's on the street.
You painted it on the
can't
street.
walk on stairs that have that painted on it. It's
I have
like,
no desire
those
to
are
hurt
stairs.
anybody's rainbow flag. I have no problem with it. But why did you paint it on the street? Because you wanted people to drive over it so you could be
Yeah, you
bothered
wanted to
by it.
create a situation.
Of course you did.
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and I'm very pro-gay rights. I've always been a proponent
issue.
for, I have no issue with them having the rights to have, what do they call it, a civil ceremony. Churches should not be forced to bend a knee, ever.
In many countries, in Hungary, which is where I'm more familiar, it is super duper common. It is the most common thing, partly because of communism, that you have a civil service. Everybody has a civil service, which is your legal contract with the government that gives you tax breaks and so on. And you have a church service, which is your religious deal. That's normal for every single couple, regardless of your affiliation. Right?
Right.
That seems like we
Mhm.
should just make that normal for every human being. So you have your civil service where you went to the courthouse, and then you have your church and your party service for your friends and family and God. I don't know why we don't just do that. And oh darn it, I had some other brilliant point. I'll think of it in a minute. Never mind.
So you and I are close to the same age, Julia, so don't worry. I have brain farts all the time. I will say this, that it reminds me of that old little, like you would see this on the sign out in front of a church.
Mm.
Give the devil an inch and he'll become your ruler.
Oh yeah, right. It's always that mission
Mhm.
creep.
And it's sort of that's the way
We're
it
not
feels.
trying to do this. We're just doing this one thing. That's it. And we'll never go that
And then
far.
once they get that, all of a sudden they're just grabbing. It's crazy. You let them in the door and they're going nuts. And
It's such a weird thing to be so into, although I'm not planning on sleeping with anyone that isn't my husband, like ever again in my life, right? So who you sleep with is of no interest to me at all.
Mhm.
nobody's
In
business with
any
you in
way.
the
I mean,
privacy
I
of your
really
home.
care less what you do. Just go knock yourself
As long
out.
as what you're doing isn't harming another human being
Yeah,
or
leave
defying
the
their
kids
rights.
alone.
Yeah. There are problems here, though.
Of
And
course.
the problems are when you start trying to take a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or an
Leave the
That's where
8-year-old.
it's fine.
Absolutely. Children
Because a
are
child
and
a
then
Exactly.
they're
child
off limits for
cannot give
everyone.
consent. Yeah,
Yeah.
a child can't give consent.
Correct.
Period.
One of the books, I edit a number of books also. One of the books I edited is on this topic. It's I guess I would call it a family biography of a kid who is taken over by the school system, by the child preventive child preventive services, but it starts at 7 years old. They purposely wanted to remove him.
Yep.
There's a whole system behind this, and when you look at the school where they put him, right, the father had gotten basically an itinerary printed out of exactly all the questions, and I think there were about 25 questions on this, on how to, on what they asked the kid, starting there at the very beginning. And what ends up happening is it's a way of of reforming their mind in order to make them into something that at that age they would never even begin thinking about.
Right.
By the time they're finished, they're coming out and saying, well, a boy is saying, well, actually, I'm really a girl. And a girl is saying, I'm really a boy. And this is at 7 or 8 years old, when, there's no natural part of that. And that's where it becomes a real problem.
Of course. That gender thing is a totally different ball of wax, because
Yes.
that's like, I didn't know what gender was. I mean, we shouldn't have conversations about that till puberty.
It's so bizarre.
Right. Exactly.
It is.
Well, it's child abuse. It's disgusting.
But it's a very formalized. It's essentially like a mafia type organization within Child Protective Services.
Oh, they use mob rules.
Oh
They
yes.
do.
Oh yes.
They absolutely use mob rules.
It's very formally done the way it's done. So
It was not that many years ago when I was living in California that there was this legislation in place and people were freaking out because circumcision was such child abuse and they had to be stopped. And even for religious reasons could not be done because it was so
That was
horrible
considered
to little
genital
boys.
mutilation.
Right.
genital
Now we're
mutilation.
just cutting their dicks off.
Yeah.
That is life affirming, and it's horrible if you think that that's wrong, even if they're 5.
And
Exactly. And that's why this meme, I'm going to show you a meme. Andy's watching the show right now, a British friend of the channel, sent me this just because of our conversation right now. Here it is. I'm here to remind you there's only 2 genders and a whole lot of mental illness. And
go with that one.
True. You don't reach equality of opportunity through positive discrimination. You don't even get equity that way. No, you're right, Reed. Good point.
I think it's money. I think a lot of it's money. I think there's a lot of money that's going away with the decrease in the future of abortion and how much money was made on abortion clinics and abortion services, and those places are looking for a way to cash in. And there's lots and lots of money in providing gender transitions.
Now, I do want to point this out. J.K. Rowling being the woke antichrist will never not be funny.
God bless her. I love her.
Yeah. And then the follow-up to that is from Read by Nature, especially when she courted them hard with non-applicable retcons once her books were finished. So,
awesome.
Because look, I always consider, Keith and I talk about this all the time, my partner Keith, that we are actually, we consider ourselves woke, but in the right way.
Yep.
Where it's like, we are not overly progressive, but we're progressive in certain ways when it deals with equality. Now, where does that equality draw the line? I will say this. I said it to some of the women I served with in the military. I said, if you can carry the largest guy in, you can be in an infantry unit with that guy. But if you can't, you need to step aside. And this goes to some of you tiny guys too. Fuck you. If you cannot carry that guy to safety, you need to be able to protect that guy next to you. And it led to me, I made my future ex-wife cry at the end of that training session, because I gave her and this other girl the biggest guy other than me in the company. And they had to take him across this entire lane, which included going up over the side of a small cliff. And then they got to the oiled sand with the barbed wire over top of it, and they had to low crawl with him under it, dragging him. And that's where, and I stood over him and I was yelling, "It's okay. You can give up. Don't worry. He'll be okay. He's not going to die from those wounds. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, crying will help." I don't know why she married me later. I guess because I was such a dick. But I made the point. And I believe that women do a great job in the military. I really do. And when it comes down to it, you want them trained to do the job, including firing their weapon if need be, and to defend themselves. But I still have issues with women in the Rangers and Special Forces and in infantry units, because there are so many problems that go with that they don't seem to want to think about. And having been in the military, I know it happened because I was in a co-ed branch of the military, medical. And I'm going to tell you what, there was a lot of fucking going on.
Sure.
And you don't want that in an infantry unit. And it is problematic. And
the point is becoming moot. It's hard to tell who's what, and we don't have enough people of any kind. And the combat readiness is so poor.
Right now we're in bad shape. We absolutely are. And in fact, your husband just published something recently talking about that. This is over on the Warriors Inc. site, which is now global.
Yeah.
And when you join it, you sign up for it. I got John to sign up for it. I sent invites to all my friends. And about every other week, Dale publishes an assessment of something. And I always love to read his assessments. And this is a problem. This is a real problem, because right now, other countries in just the 4 years stop fearing us. And people go, well, they respect us. No, there's no respect without fear. I'm going to let you know that now. This is Teddy Roosevelt made it clear.
It's
to carry a big stick.
It's a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
You know, when you have an open border, right now,
We have enemy coming into this country right now.
probably the lowest estimate of Chinese males of military age who have come in is 30,000. That's the lowest estimate. The estimate goes up to as high as 100,000. And but if you even just go with 30,000, that's like a division and a half of people, and you're allowing them to come in to disperse into probably, let's call them sleeper cells. I mean,
they are sleeper cells.
Period. Yes, the potential right there. You know, we talked before a little bit about the economy, the potential for those that have come in, and I'm not talking about all the illegals who have come across who are actually looking for a better life for themselves, that are economic immigrants, let's call them.
We
right?
want to help people like that. That is as Americans, we love that. But
yes, and we may want to help them, but we also want them to come in, through proper channels.
Yep.
But we don't want all these other people to come in, and they're coming in, and the Chinese, the Houthi are coming in. The potential for violence in this country, or the potential for knocking the grid out, and for so many other things. Potential. We've got these biolabs, these foreign biolabs hidden that are working in this country that could take out military bases without using any weapons, actually, but just by spraying, an aerosol of different biological agents. I mean, there's so many things that are going on, and we're not protecting ourselves. We're not being vigilant. There are people out there that are watching all this and they're shaking their head, but we're not being vigilant enough. We used to have a saying when I was in the 101st, where you can't over improve a defensive position, right? Well, as a nation, when we are sitting here with a hostile world around us, this is a defensive position. And instead of improving the defenses, we are dropping the defenses. We're opening up the gates to let more and more in, and we are making it legal for them to do what we would consider illegal things.
It's not just with the border. We're losing our defenses, not just there. The strategic oil reserve. We are giving away all of our ammunition and all of our munitions in general, of our aircraft, our own defenses in equipment, in everything.
Yes.
Muted. We don't have a defense anymore.
We even just recently discovered a security breach in New York at the ports, where we discovered the Chinese had infiltrated our software on this equipment.
Yeah.
And knew everything that was going in and out of our country. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a bad thing? Nobody's listening to shit over it.
And maybe, and just maybe, things that they're sending in that shouldn't be are being hidden, right? So, I mean, you can bring in an awful lot of arms in containers, and then you disperse them. I mean, the potential, what we have coming, this is what we're trying to wake people up about. The potential of what is around the corner, and it could be next week, it could be next year. But this is, in all sorts of different elements.
Yeah, there's without change, there is no happy ending.
Yes.
Pete Townsend wrote the words, it is all building up to something that can only be purged with fire. Well, I love Pete Townsend's music, man. And that is a line that is stuck in my head since I fucking heard that song. That was, 87 White Horse or White City. Great album. But look, is there hope that we could turn this around at this point? Do you see anything?
Yes, there's always hope.
Because we got that one gentleman that's been quizzing a few people, including Fauci and some of his ilk. In fact, we had him going after a member of the Department of Justice, saying, "Why can't we see those documents?" If nothing happened, if you keep yelling conspiracy theory, well, show us the documents to prove that there is no conspiracy theory. Well, you can send a request. No, 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 no. You're deflecting now, and we've got to have more guys like this guy. And we've only got 2 guys up there, Kennedy and him. They're the only ones that I see really fighting.
There's just not enough. There's not enough, and
too many of them want their money.
And people, many are controlled by money, no doubt about that. But a lot of people that would want to fight back and they're afraid to. It is like being in China right now, or like the old Soviet Union, or like East Germany. You're not sure if you want to say anything out loud that your neighbor might hear, because your neighbor might say, "Oh, did you hear that? I got to tell somebody what this guy's doing." We have lost in this country what I would call the public trust. Where I think when I was growing up, and I think for many years after, people had a tendency to trust their neighbors, trust other Americans. We were Americans. We weren't all diverse. We were all united. And one of the big things in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s was making sure that everybody, had the fair opportunity. But it wasn't making sure that, this little group has an opportunity and this little group has an opportunity, and we have to separate everybody into different groups.
Yeah, special rights is what you're talking about. It's not special rights. Everybody had a right and a chance to be.
And we're becoming more and more united. And, in the past 12 years, maybe, and longer than that, really, but they've been working at dividing us and dividing us and dividing us until you have the point where you don't know, you're in a grocery store, you're not going to want to say something out loud if you think somebody's going to overhear you, and all of a sudden this is going to become a problem. So I think a lot of people basically are hiding right now, and they want to see, sitting back, want to see, okay, how is this all going to go? What's going to happen?
I think there is hope.
This is dangerous.
Okay,
And
Julia?
I think there is hope, because I do believe in the American people always. I think that Americans are so good at being fucked up, smart ass, you're not going to tell me what to do, wonderful people, and I adore them all, that gives me hope. I saw a thing on Twitter that had some headline. It was Benedict Cumberbatch was talking about suffering from crippling constipation, and somebody had posted underneath it, "No shit, Sherlock." And I went, I love America.
There you go. I love it. No shit, Sherlock.
Because of that. That is just encapsulated just everything I love about this nation. That attitude.
Get a snapshot of that and send that to me, because I fucking want to post that. That's great. No shit, Sherlock.
It's the thing that we have gotten used to is being passive, of thinking a hashtag is an action. It is not. Of feeling like we're doing something when we're not doing something. Take an action today. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be something that is this huge amount of courage that your neighbors are going to shoot you. If there is a company whose policies you like, that is, again, isn't succumbing to public pressure to do things you don't approve of, buy one share of that company for $20. Okay, help them.
Support it.
Be part of the system. Be part of the economy. Help it out.
Be part of the solution.
And find a way. One of the ways that the baddies have infiltrated is because they've gotten on school boards. They have gotten on city councils. They have gotten on very low-level positions that nobody wants to do because the job's
administrative. They're in control, managerially in control. and
And
they're
those
making
things
changes, hiring
control
teachers,
everything in this
activists,
country.
teachers.
And
Yeah.
those are the people who then become higher and higher level politicians, and they run everything.
Working their way up the food chain.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't because we fell asleep and we're worrying about who's president and vice president and ignoring that for the last 30 years.
well, you look at conservatives this way. Remember back when GW was president and we just had 9/11, and he says, everybody go on about your life.
Mhm.
Keep shopping,
Yep.
do all that stuff. And we got this covered. It's like, and I right then and there, I had a problem with that. I'm like, no, Americans need to be on a war footing. You need to let them know, be diligent
Yep.
and be prepared for having to, make personal sacrifices. That's what war footing is.
Correct. And the wars that the American people have gotten behind are the ones in which they were involved. The ones where you're collecting peach pits for gas masks and rolling bandages
Mhm.
for the Red Cross. It's very different from the ones where, oh, it's just that 1% of the American people, and I don't know any of them anyway, who are our military cast that we're sending over there to fight some war. I don't even know who they are. And it doesn't affect my life at all, as opposed to when it was the citizen soldier who was your brother or your postman or the guy down the street and
Yeah.
you knew who was in danger. It's a very different feeling. And we don't think about those people. Who's in Niger? It's a huge catastrophe for this country, a huge embarrassment and a disaster for our policy in Africa. Nobody even knows that we just lost another base, another 1,000 troops, and another whatever that's going, no big deal. Nobody knows we're there, and nobody knows any of the people who are there.
It's ridiculous.
And
People are not engaged is the problem.
it's not just not being engaged, but where's our media to tell us?
That's right. That's
Right?
the biggest problem.
With the death of journalism, nobody's telling them.
Yeah. Well, it's not even it's the death of journalism, but it's the corporate death of journalism. Who owns it? Who allows what to be said? And what are the stories that those that are the journalists that are actually in the field? What are they allowed to say?
And what information gets to you? Yesterday, this Saturday, there is the Chisholm Trail Roundup in Lockhart, Texas. And there is the Caldwell County float of the Republican Party. And I'm going to be sitting on that float. And I didn't know
Cool.
I didn't know what to wear in the parade. So I went to my browser, which happens to be DuckDuckGo, and typed in what to wear in a Republican parade. DuckDuckGo, not Google, mind you. The entire page the responses were what to wear to the Pride Parade. Everyone. There was not one single answer that said Republican parade. It was just odd. I mean, I was just like, it might be interesting to read what they would say about Pride Parade, but how did that get changed? The word Republican to every single response being Pride.
Wow,
that's really odd.
So something's
especially in Texas. I
odd.
expect that shit in Austin, but in the rest of the state, no. That's weird.
Well, I expect it more on Google than I would on DuckDuckGo, but I guess it's all the same.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo. But
they were bought out by were they bought out by Google? They were bought out
by George Soros.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, since Drudge is no longer Drudge sold out, and went totally left. So I turned to a friend of mine, Julia. Give me a good place to go for getting news. And of course, here, I'm going to show you that place. I still go there. It's called What Finger. And because of you, I go there. Great resource for finding news. Yes, it's for conservatives, but basically it's also for people who aren't stupid and buying into the fodder. And so it's a great website. Oh, I thought I shared it. What happened?
Don't know.
Let me try that again. Oh, I closed it like an idiot. There we go. Here it is. And this is a great website. It's what the Drudge Report used to be.
Huh.
And it's a great website. And again, all thanks to Julia for giving me that place to go to, because I was like, where am I going to go for my morning news?
But
the other thing I need to is, yes, it's an aggregate. And so I am going to now go here so we can talk more. And again, at the top of the chat, you guys will see a link and it will take you straight to the book, the ebook. But this is their website. This is Warriors Publishing. Did I open the right one? Yes, I did. So here we go. You changed formatting on this, so I've had trouble with it since you did. But I do like the ease of doing it. Look at all that amazing artwork.
Beautiful, huh?
Hey, that's Dale Dye right there. By the way, this is the one I'm most proud of, this cover. Because this was published by the U.S. Navy, too.
Which one is it? I'm sorry, I can't see what you're doing.
It's the Korean Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And look at that artwork. My studying Drew Struzan really paid off here.
Yeah, I love
that. This is the website. All these books, just so many freaking books. Look, oh my God. Look at the authors. Hey, that's John Del Vecchio right there.
Yeah.
And this is a good friend of mine here. He's kind of stepped away from writing right now. I don't know what's going on with him.
Who's that?
Is Eric Sebastian. Sebastian.
Abby. He's doing a lot of public appearances.
I tried getting him on here to talk about his book. I'll bug him again. But just a lot of books over on Warriors Publishing. You guys need to go check it out. Martin, can you share it out? I'll put it in the private chat so you can pass it around. Are you still there, Martin? By the way, if you guys didn't know this, Martin is a refugee of a communist country, Venezuela.
Okay.
He fled Venezuela and moved north to another shithole called Mexico. But he's almost to America, so close. We want him. We want Martin. Martin's a good American living in Mexico.
Good. Need people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, there's warriorspublishing.com. Go check it out. Also, if you want to go straight to the book to check out John's new book, it is at the top of the chat. And yep, there it is. Absolutely go check it out. I think it's going to be well worth it. Let me read a little bit of it right here, if you don't mind. In the year 2048, 38-year-old Angelica, or is it Ange? Ange tells the story of what happened to her 24 years earlier in August of 2024, when she was just 14, when she and her brother Sal, 16 and a half at the time, fled from their home in Oregon in hopes of reaching their grandparents' farm at Whirl's End, Pennsylvania. It is a period of crisis, tragedy, collapse in social order, balkanization of the United States, and the rise of tyranny. Ange leads in with anecdotes of building the truck that eventually carried them on the journey during summers at Grandpa's, and with the COVID death of her father, and ends with their status 24 years later. And you got to read the book to find out what that is. So if that sounds interesting, guys, it's John, not me, because I read terribly. So I'm not Mac. And Julia, you got a professional Mac. You should get him to do a voiceover. Mac would love to do that for you.
Yeah.
He loves you and Dale. So, but
Awesome. Great.
You remember Mac? You met him. He was at the house, bald guy. Yeah,
indeed. Oh, he's awesome.
I always, right when his ego starts to get too much, I'll go, you really do look a lot like Tim Conway when he was chubby. And it just irritates the shit out of him when I do that. What? But I think we have wrapped up the show. I don't want to do 2 hours because I don't think I want to put you guys through 2 hours of a show. But let's wrap this up, John. Starting with you. Do your pitch on the book and explain to folks why they need to read this novella.
Well, I think what I would say, Gary, is that, first of all, this is my opinion, all right? I think it's an exciting story. I think once you get into it, I think the flow is good. I think it pulls you through. There's going to be a lot of things that people go, and should make a lot of people think while you're going through the dramatic parts of it. And when you get towards the end, you begin realizing just what truly, Gary, I wrote most of this starting in last February, and the reality that I wrote it in about 6 weeks, which is very short for me. For the sake of all living things, took me 5 years. But so when it was finished, from the time it was finished to where we are right now, some of these things are happening, and they're happening right in front of us. So I'm hoping that this is a warning to people that people will, yes, they'll enjoy the story as a story, but they'll also look at it and say, wow, are you kidding me? This is the potential of where we are going, so I'm hoping that that it will wake people up.
You also touch on something that is one of the themes I like, are kids in peril. And your two main characters are under 16 and a half. I like that you threw that in there, 16 and a half. You got a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and that's kids in peril.
Yes.
And having to do something dangerous. That's what makes so many stories exciting for me. That's what made Red Dawn so amazing, and Goonies. Yes, I fucking love Goonies.
I love
Kids
Goonies.
in peril.
And kids confident. They're not like stupid idiots who can't do anything. They actually can think and
you don't know how to open a can.
Yeah. Well, these two kids, they're pretty cool kids.
Yeah, they are.
They go through hell, but they are those that are, with all the troubles, it does make them stronger. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting a copy so I can read it. And but Julia, last thoughts, your pitch on the book, and of course of Warriors Publishing Group.
Sure. Well, come on over. We got lots of stuff to read, so check it out. But the thing with this book that I will say on the business end of things, it's not. This is not a big moneymaker. You'll see, it's not expensive. It's the lowest price that we could sell it for on Amazon. They won't let you price it for less because we're not in this to make a huge profit. We want this story out there and told to as many people as possible. So it's not a big bite out of your wallet. So come and read it. It's worth your time.
So I ask, of course, our audience, please go check out this book. And I would love to hear back from our chat as to what they thought of it. And we'll circle back around on another show. I'll probably do it on Friday. And just ask everybody, like, not this Friday, but a couple of Fridays from now, I'll just ask them and I'll report back to you any reactions they had. But Martin, how are things in Mexico right now? Let's do a live report.
About what? Oh man,
No. He lives with his wonderful wife Mildred and his daughters, and it's just a great family. I love it. He takes them bowling, which is another great American pastime. He loves going bowling with them. And look, I hate to embarrass him again. All the girls kicked his ass. They all kicked his ass bowling. He absolutely got wrecked.
To be embarrassed, you have to give a shot first. So
you're also really proud of your girls. So you can't embarrass a man who's proud of his daughter. So, but I like messing with you because you're my buddy. But once again, I want to tell everybody that our dear friend Mike Alonso, also known as Clobbery, or Clobby. I call him Clobbery. Clobby has passed away, and if you knew him at all, please make a post, and don't forget that he has a GoFundMe. It's specifically set up to help his kids keep the store open. It's really what it's about, and also to help with funeral arrangements. They didn't want to say that because they knew where it was going, but that's really what it's for, is help them get him buried and to keep his store going, because he has an amazing comic book store. So everybody check that out. And Julia, John, thanks for being friends. I fucking love you guys. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
I'm
you,
so
Gary.
glad you value coming on with me to talk about this. I hope I did a good job interviewing you. And
Delightful.
I always try to get my friends to open up and just talk about shit, because that's really when shows get exciting for me. I'm like, ooh, we're getting into it. Got some stuff going here. But thank you, everybody. I hope everybody has a good hump day. I plan to go doing some humping shortly. No.
TMI.
No. It's not even TMI. Nothing's happening. It's boring. And just remember, this is the book that you are looking for right here. August 2024 by John M. Del Vecchio. Hey, tell them what the M is for.
It's Michael.
I expected something far more Italian.
Well, I mean, I was baptized Giovanni Battista Michelangelo.
Oh, that's way more interesting.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. So the only Italian I learned was from this nun that used to whack the shit out of me. She would go, "Testadora, it's scooch," and she'd whack me with it. And I learned later it's bad Italian. My Italian is just terrible. I don't know if that's what it sounded like she said, and it meant "listen up, idiot." You know, it's what you're saying before she would whack me. So
I know that I am a child of the 80s because you said that, and all I thought of was, wow, you're all the Ninja Turtles.
You're all the Ninja Turtles. Oh my God. So that's the end of the show. Thanks for being here, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you again, Julia. Thank you, John. You don't have to leave immediately. We can talk for a few minutes afterward if you want to. Everybody else, have a great Wednesday. And don't forget that Keith has a show in the morning. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. That's the only entertainment talk we have on the channel other than movies now. And then Friday, we're going to be talking about a classic TV show. Last week was a good one. What is this week? I forget. Anima's the one who selects the shows. So, you know, she's going to pick the comedy. She likes the sitcoms. So we're going to be talking about a classic sitcom. And then Saturday, we're going to be talking about a classic film. So everybody have a great week. And we are out of here. Bye, everybody. I'm going to check to see if I got an invite, Penny. Thank you, Gap. Thank you, everybody.